to the Palestine refugees who number today, they started at 800,000 in 1948 and have been strictly defined as those who left Israel in 1948, today number some more than 4 million. And the organization, which is an operational organization because it provides the services directly, and that provides education, health, and other social services to the population of the refugee population, wherever it resides. And they reside in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. I've given you enough statistics and background. Let me get to the cases. First, the post-independence refugee crisis in India and Pakistan. The first few months after India and Pakistan achieved independence from British rule in 1947, witnessed some of the most tragic and gruesome scenes of civil conflict since the end of the Second War. While incidents of communal violence prior to August 1947 signaled the probability of an explosion, what happened in the months that followed went well beyond anybody's expectation. Estimates of the numbers killed have ranged between 200,000 at the low end to as high as 500,000, mostly in the divided province of the Punjab, but not sparing other parts of the two countries, including in the Indian capital, Delhi. The result of the carnage was the ejection of massive numbers of people from their homes. Villages and towns were emptied of the minority populations, and their movement towards areas where they could expect, shelter and safety. Muslim refugees moved towards Pakistan, and Hindus and Sikhs towards India. The government authorities on both sides in the two newly independent states at first tried to do what was possible to control and stop the rioting, but soon they felt overwhelmed and decided to focus on a transfer of populations in both directions. One cannot speak of order in the midst of such chaos, but efforts were made by the government authorities to prevent atrocities and to give temporary shelter to victims, and then to help them to take on arduous journeys in either direction. And these were taken on foot, or by bullock cart, or where possible by train, with, in some cases, not all cases, escorts provided by the military or by other border forces. On both sides, however, there were numerous stories of how families in distress, escaping marauding gangs, were taken in by neighbors, and often at a serious risk to themselves. I can personally recall, and I was 9 years old then, I give you my age, and I recall one incident where a family of Hindus, 7 in all, were given shelter by neighbors, and I did see them personally, and then later were taken to a collection point with the help of the military, who came and took them by truck. And this collection point was established for this purpose. And as far as I know, they later left for India. Where they are, I have no idea. Similarly, many refugees who came to Pakistan from India could recall assistance from neighbors for their onward journeys. The refugees in both directions arrived at their in their new countries with literally nothing other than the shirts on their backs. When one considers the numbers involved, more than 5 million in each direction, it is almost miraculous that we did not witness mass starvation or famine conditions. Temporary reception centers or camps established by the administrations in both countries helped to meet some of the immediate needs for food, clothing, and shelter. But I believe the most effective factor enabling the refugees to settle into some livelihood, enabling them to subsist, was the fact that they had arrived at their new destinations with no return to their original homes. Secondly, and this was a key factor in due course, the host countries, that is both Pakistan and India, I know more about Pakistan, but I imagine this has happened in India too, the host countries worked on the basis of a decision to accommodate the refugees in the new countries in the properties evacuated by the departing refugees. Eventually, in fact, this process was placed on a firm legal footing. And in Pakistan, by the late 50s, almost all the so-called evacuee property was handed over proportionately to refugees who could provide evidence of having left property behind in India. I understand the same policy was adopted in India. Moreover, many of the refugees who had left government jobs or professional practices were provided similar governmental jobs or allowed freely to practice their professions in the receiving countries. There were many cases of distress, but equally, there were many cases of success, whether in governmental service, in the professions, or entrepreneurial or agricultural enterprise. In Pakistan's case, the refugees who came from eastern Punjab, this is a major province, some of you perhaps know the geography well, in eastern Punjab, in India, tended to gravitate to western Punjab in Pakistan. Many who had family connections found their first point of shelter with them, but later went on to assimilate very easily among their co-linguists. Those who came from regions in India that were further east and south of the Punjab gravitated towards the main port city in Pakistan, the port city of Karachi. It was also the main trading center and the industrial center of the country. The arrival of the refugee population in Karachi had a much more profound effect in that region of Pakistan. In 1947, Karachi was a city of some 350,000 as the provincial capital of the Sindh province. And the predominant language spoken there was Sindhi, which was the provincial language. Today, it is a city of almost 15 million. And the predominant language is Urdu, a cultural impact with far-reaching consequences, as you would understand. While in the Punjab, the assimilation of the new arrivals has been very smooth, and today it is almost imperceptible. In Karachi, in the Sindh province, the impact has had profound consequences in cultural, economic,